Left-wing journalists, reporters, anchor types, teleprompter readers, they're all going absolutely insane over Trump's appearance with the National Association of Black Journalists yesterday. And we're going to show you what they're saying and why they're saying it. Also, Trump left that meeting and went to a rally in Pennsylvania, and it was, well, vintage Trump and pretty heartwarming considering this is the closest he's been back to Butler, Pennsylvania since the assassination attempt just 19 days ago. And something happened at the Olympics today, something atrocious, something horrible, something disgusting that could be the end of women's sports as we know it. We'd love to show it to you, but NBC Sports, they are going insane trying to keep you from seeing the truth. We'll talk about it coming up right now. We're brought to you by Birch Gold. I'm Larry O'Connor. You can call me Larry. Thanks for watching our very live stream right now from Town Hall Media, the mothership, the headquarters in Washington, D.C. We're across all our streaming platforms for Town Hall Media right now, including Rumble and YouTube and X and Facebook. And if you're watching on the Town Hall sites, townhall.com, hotair.com, pjmedia.com, redstate.com, twitchy.com, bearingarms.com. Do I have to keep using the .com? We know it's a .com by now, don't we? We appreciate you. We appreciate you watching. We appreciate all the support that you're giving us and the community that we're building here on this show. In just 9-10 short months, we've really started something, and it's all thanks to you. So thank you for subscribing and liking and following and thumbs upping and all the jazz, and especially the comments. They mean a lot to us, even when you disagree. Thanks for that. So by now you know that Donald Trump accepted an invitation to the National Association of Black Journalists. Now, this, of course, is an organization that I'm not allowed to belong to because I guess racial segregation is still a thing in some parts of this country, especially if you're a journalist or a reporter or what have you. That said, the event went on. Donald Trump got there. Kamala Harris was supposed to be there too. She didn't show up, but you don't hear much about that. These journalists are just fine with Kamala Harris taking advantage of them, taking them for granted, and just saying, I don't have to show up. These people will love me and support me anyway. But instead, you're hearing about what Donald Trump did and what he said. Listen, by now, I'm sure you've seen the clips. I'm more interested in the reaction to what Donald Trump said. But just in case you're just getting up to speed, take a look at how the entire thing started. Just the first question and Donald Trump's response. That's really all you need to see.
People did not think it was appropriate for you to be here today. You have pushed false claims about some of your rivals, from Nikki Haley to former President Barack Obama, saying that they were not born in the United States, which is not true. You have told 4 congresswomen of color who were American citizens to go back to where they came from. You have used words like animal and rabbit to describe Black district attorneys. You've attacked Black journalists, calling them a loser, saying the questions that they ask are, quote, stupid and racist. You've had dinner with a white supremacist at your Mar-a-Lago resort. So my question, sir, now that you are asking Black supporters to vote for you, why should Black voters trust you after you have used language like that?
Well, first of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question so in such a horrible manner. First question. You don't even say, hello, how are you? Are you with ABC? Because I think they're a fake news network, a terrible network. And I think it's disgraceful that I came here in good spirit. I love the Black population of this country. I've done so much for the Black population of this country, including employment, including opportunity zones with Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, which is one of the greatest programs ever for Black workers and Black entrepreneurs. I've done so much, and and I say this, historically Black colleges and universities were out of money. They were stone cold broke, and I saved them, and I gave them long-term financing, and nobody else was doing it. I think it's a very rude introduction. I don't know exactly why you would do something like that. And let me go a step further. I was invited here, and I was told my opponent, whether it was Biden or Kamala, I was told my opponent was going to be here. It turned out my opponent isn't here. You invited me under false pretense. And then you said, you can't do it with Zoom. Well, where's Zoom? She's going to do it with Zoom, and she's not coming. And then you were half an hour late. Just so we understand, I have too much respect for you to be late. They couldn't get their equipment working or something was
Mr. President,
wrong.
I would love
I think
if you
it's
can
a
answer
very
the question
nasty
on your rhetoric
question.
and why you
I have
believe that
answered the
Black voters
question.
should trust you with another
I
4
have
years.
been the best president for the Black population since Abraham Lincoln. That's my answer.
Better than President
That's
Johnson,
my
who signed the
answer.
Voting Rights
And
Act?
for you to start off a question and answer period, especially when you're 35 minutes late because you couldn't get your equipment to work in such a hostile manner, I think it's a disgrace.
Let me just ask a
All right. So, a couple of things that you just saw if you're watching it the same way I'm watching it. First of all, you saw Donald Trump being Donald Trump. He wasn't phony. He wasn't kiss ass. He wasn't trying to ingratiate himself. He responded to an attack with a counterattack. We've seen Donald Trump over the course of the last 9-10 years in public life do exactly that. No matter what race the person is who's attacking him, that's what he's going to do. You also saw Donald Trump walking into the lion's den, knowing that it was going to be hostile, knowing that it was going to be an uncomfortable situation, but he submitted himself to this because he wants to reach out to anyone who wants to have a conversation. Do you know that Kamala Harris has not granted one interview to anyone? I mean, even Rachel Maddow, even someone who would not treat it like an interview, but like a full body massage. She hasn't sat down with one journalist since she has assumed the throne of the Democrat nomination that Joe Biden was forced to relinquish. Isn't that a problem? She won't talk to anyone that's not scripted and telepromptered. I mean, even the RuPaul thing was on teleprompter. And Donald Trump is willing to go in there and say, okay, give me what you got. But if you're going to give me what you got, be ready to get it back. Because that's what Donald Trump does. And we like that about him. We like that he fights. We like that he has courage. We like that he walks into the lion's den and does that. By the way, you notice that first question, which is just obviously and not even debatable how rude it was and how aggressive it was and how it was meant to create an adversarial situation, it began with a fascinating admission. Let me just play it for you in case you missed it.
People did not think it was appropriate for you to be here today.
The membership of the National Association of Black Journalists thought it wasn't appropriate for him to be there. The National Association of Black Journalists thought it would be inappropriate to have the leading candidate for president at their event for a newsworthy interview because they're journalists. That tells you everything you need to know. And if anybody out there is characterizing this as some sort of racist attack on this journalist, this woman from ABC News, if anyone is saying that he only acted this way because she's black, can I just remind you of something, please? For God's sake, don't we have any memory in this nation at all? Am I the only one? Remember this moment in 2015, the first major debate of the Republican candidates, the first time we got to see Donald Trump as a candidate with his counterparts on the same stage as him?
You've called women you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals. Your Twitter account...
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
No, it wasn't. Your Twitter account...
Thank you.
He responded. I'll never get over that. Only Rosie O'Donnell. He responded to Megyn Kelly in that debate the same way he responded to this journalist yesterday. When you go after him that way, and yes, this was like, 3 Megyn Kellys ago. When you go after him that way, he's going to push back. Gone are the days of John McCain and Mitt Romney saying, oh, shucks. Now, I know that you're just trying to give me a gotcha question, but I'm not going to fall for that trick. I just want to be your friend. No, Donald Trump knows that they're not trying to be his friend and they have no interest in being his friend. So why should he pretend? Why should he play? Why should he bullshit? And by the way, you saw the reaction of the crowd. From that moment forward, people were like, oh, okay, it's a brand new game now. And it's about time we had people fighting. So that's what you saw yesterday from Donald Trump, which is fine. And we know who he is, and this is exactly what you should expect. And that's exactly what the media should have expected, and they did expect it. That's why they created this drama. The bigger question for all of us to decide is, does this help? See, it doesn't matter if, hey, that's just Trump, and I love that Trump does what Trump does. That's fine. But does it help? Does it help Donald Trump get elected in November? Because every single thing that happens between now and Election Day, that is all that matters. Does whatever happened today help Donald Trump beat Kamala Harris in November? Period. End of discussion. Every single thing you see needs to be shot through that lens. Does it help? Well, let's see. First of all, we have a reaction. We have a reaction mostly from MSNBC. We'll start with Joy Reid. Here's Joy Reid's reaction to what happened with the National Association of Black Journalists. And while you watch this, think to yourself, why is she freaking out like this?
I also just want to say one quick thing about this invitation to the president and board of NABJ. Y'all got played. Donald Trump showed up at the convention for exactly 3 reasons. 1, to try to dispel the notion that he's scared to debate a black woman, a presumption one can draw from his refusal to commit to debating VP Harris, who, again, for those in the back, is a black and Asian woman. It's also why he lost it like a grumbly senior at the retirement home who didn't get his Jell-O dessert when ABC's Rachel Scott challenged him to answer basic questions. And how likely is it that he would have shown up at all if the lady from the network that paid a $787 million legal settlement for spreading the big lie wasn't included on the panel? Second, to steal the attention that Vice President Kamala Harris has hijacked from him because she's just more interesting and her support is more joyous and rooted in popular American culture. And 3, to create clips to play for his very white, very right-wing MAGA fan base of him standing up to the blacks. Joining me.
All right, now they're going to bring on April Ryan, and we'll watch that conversation too. But I just need to point out here that here we've got Joy Reid, and you're going to see other liberals. I've got plenty of clips here as MSNBC, CNN, and all these liberal journalists are just freaking out. I can't believe Trump did that. Just think for a minute. This is a guy who they falsely claimed 5 years ago said after Charlottesville that there were very fine people on both sides of the fight down in Charlottesville. In other words, these are the people who falsely claimed that Donald Trump said neo-Nazis and white nationalists were very fine people. Now, of course, he never said that. But as far as their narrative and their audience goes, they've been calling him Hitler. They've been calling him a fascist. They've been calling him a Klansman. They've been calling him racist. And they've been saying that he's a threat to the very country that we're living in. And if he gets elected, there won't be another election ever again. So why is this making them freak out? An appearance at the National Association of Black Journalists. I mean, this is nothing compared to what they claim he's been saying. This is nothing compared to what they've been calling him. They should be like, well, yeah, see, he is Hitler. But no, there's an extra level of freak out going on here. And I'm going to reveal why in a minute. But spoiler alert, it's because everything that they've done, all of the criminal charges, all of the trials, all of the lies, all of the political violence, none of it's worked. None of it has worked. And so now here we go again with another he's racist controversy that also isn't going to work. At least not with black voters. And we'll show you that in a minute because they are absolutely petrified about black voters right now. Watch.
Me now is April Ryan, White House correspondent for The Griot and an MSNBC contributor. April, deep breaths. I watched that today in absolute horror. You were one of the people who spoke out against this invitation. Talk to me about how in the world it happened in the first place.
Well, first of all, the NABJ, an advocacy group for Black journalists, the Black press, extends invitations every election cycle to the presidential candidates. But for this cycle, this special and unique cycle, Donald Trump was invited. But we know the story, and this is where I'm going to put the butt in. We know the story. We've seen the movie. We spit the popcorn out and all of that. We know who he is to the Black press, how he has berated us, how his minions have berated us, from himself to Tucker Carlson, who have come after me, Yamiche Alcindor, and you, Joy. And so many others, like Sonny Hostin from The View, Donna Brazil, Abby Phillips, so many, Don Lemon. And understanding this, and you're an advocacy group for the press, why would you invite someone that in 2018 you said you were appalled at his actions and used our pictures to say that so you're not appalled? What was this for? Was this for showing clout? Was this really for journalism's sake? Or was this just to pop your collar, I can get a presidential candidate? This was...
Yeah.
It was insulting. My chest hurt the whole time. It was a shock and awe moment. I'm still trying to deal with it because the way he went after Rachel, I'm very concerned.
All right. So I hope you're seeing through this, right? I mean, think about it for a minute. They're appalled that he was invited. They're appalled that this happened. They're appalled that this person was allowed in the room. If they're an advocacy group and they're all liberal and they want to stop Donald Trump, why wouldn't they want an event like this? Why wouldn't they want a moment like this? Why wouldn't they want the ability to say, you see what a monster he is? And yet they're angry that the invitation was extended and accepted. Now that doesn't make much sense, does it? And the only answer is because he actually said things that they didn't want people to hear. One of the things he said was challenging Kamala Harris as a fake, as a fraud, as a phony. You see, Kamala Harris comes across to a lot of people as, what are the words I'm looking for? A fake, a fraud, a phony. And she specifically comes across that way to Black voters. You see, up until very recently, she very much emphasized just one part of her ethnicity, and it's understandable. She has an Indian-sounding name. It's Kamala. And she was raised from the age of 7 years old by her Indian mother. And you see, when she was elected to the Senate, she was celebrated as the first Indian American senator. You know why? You know why? It's not because she's not Black. No, but you see, she wasn't the first Black senator. She wasn't even the first Black woman senator. And see, when you're a liberal, when you're an identity politics politician, when you're I've checked a box kind of elected official, you gotta be first. You gotta be some sort of groundbreaking, historic, glass ceiling breaking first. And so cynically, Kamala Harris emphasized her Indian heritage at that time because she had to be first. She had to be historic. She had to be groundbreaking. So all the headlines at the time was that she was the first Indian American attorney general. She was the first Indian American senator. And that's fine. She's entitled. She is Indian. The cynical aspect of her racial politics, the fake, phony, fraudulent aspect is that now, everywhere you look, all she is the first Black woman president. You see, it's much more important for her to be Black right now. Why? Well, because the Black vote's a lot more important than the Indian vote. That's why. Don't believe me? Well, let's wait a little later into the evening on MSNBC and see it play out in real time. Here's Alex Wagner with her panel.
Overtly questioning her Blackness. It's also going after code switching. Fox News has a chyron, this was from last night, talking about Kamala Harris's different accents that she uses during rallies. J.D. Vance tonight in Arizona says that Harris put on a Southern accent for a Georgia audience, echoing Fox. Trump tonight said the same thing at his rally in Pennsylvania.
That's exactly what this is. It is code switching. I love that she used quotation marks there. You see, there are voters in the Black community who see this and they see right through it. They see that she goes down to Atlanta. We showed you the clip yesterday. And she said, you're going to do it again in 2024, right? Remember? But then when she was on RuPaul, she was just very, speaking in the way that she usually speaks. It is code switching. She's being able to put on whatever hat she wants to accommodate and pander to whatever audience she wants. And there's a deep concern that Black voters see through it and they think she's inauthentic, that she's a fraud. And that's fair and that's understandable. And that's why they didn't want him in that room. They didn't want him in that room at all. In fact, a little later on the MSNBC lineup, they really did go nuts on MSNBC. They refused to even show any clips of the event. That's right. They had a whole panel discussion, outraged over what Donald Trump said and did, but they refused to show their audience the clips. Why? I mean, again, understand, these people want to defeat Donald Trump. The MSNBC lineup does not want him to win the election. So if these clips are so objectionable and so awful and so horrible, why aren't they playing it over and over again to damage him? Because they don't want their audience to see it. Why?
We're not going to re-air this now. I'm just going to put up some fact check because he made this false and racially incendiary claim, which Michael just mentioned. I'll tell you what the AP said, because we prepared this, that it falsely suggests Harris somehow misled her voters about her race, that's false. This reached the level the Biden White House has condemned it today. Harris's mother, as many people already know, is of Indian descent. Her father is Black from Jamaica. The quote I'll read briefly was Trump saying that now she wants to be known as Black, as if this were some sort of new development. And Congresswoman, again, I'll be as transparent as possible with viewers. We didn't view this as the top story. We're not re-airing the entire clip. We did have this prepared to mention, and Michael mentioned it. And so understanding that that's false.
They don't want the audience to see it. It's just false. That's all that you care about. That's all that you need to know. Now just trust us. Curious, isn't it? What else is happening? Well, let's turn further on down the line on MSNBC again. Who better to talk about racial outrage than, well, their own resident paid race baiter, Al Sharpton.
He came to do what he did. He came to use them as a backboard to score with the MAGA crowd, to say, I'm one of y'all. I will go to their own conference and do everything but call them the N-word. And I will try and act like their candidate, their hero, this strong Black woman they're rallying around. She didn't even say she was Black until a little while ago. When did we not know she was Black? When she was elected the first Black district attorney of San Francisco? Or maybe when she was elected the first Black attorney general of the state of California. Or maybe we missed it when we said she was the only Black woman in the U.S. Senate, or the only Black woman to run for vice president. Why play into this illusionary picture when we can deal with who the painter of the picture is? Donald Trump saw the NABJ as a useful platform for him to show that he will stand up to Blacks and call us whatever he wants to call us and attack our people in their face, and they ain't gonna do anything about it. That's what he went to do, and that's what he did.
Do you notice how most of the anger is at the National Association of Black Journalists for letting him in the room? Isn't that a fascinating, consistent message across the board from these activists at MSNBC? Again, if what Donald Trump did and said at this event is so damaging to Donald Trump, why aren't they celebrating? Or at the very least, faking outrage? Was anything that happened at the National Association of Black Journalists and what Donald Trump said? I showed you the opening and how he would push back against Rachel Scott, and then what he said about Kamala Harris, appropriately kind of code switching and deciding that she'll accommodate whatever audience is in front of her based on her racial identity or regional identity. Is any of that worse than Trump saying that Klansmen and neo-Nazis are very fine people, which of course was a lie, but they still believe it, or at least they still say it? Is any of that worse than Donald Trump saying that Jamaica is an S-hole country that they also claim was a racist thing to say? Is there anything that happened yesterday worse than Donald Trump being literally Hitler? So why all the outrage over this? Well, we'll get there. We'll get there. Here's Kamala Harris and Karine Jean-Pierre reacting.
The American people deserve better. The American people deserve a leader who tells the truth, A leader who does not respond with hostility and anger when confronted with the facts.
It doesn't matter if it's a former leader, a former president, it is insulting. And we have to she is the Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris. We have to put some respect on her name.
Put some respect on her name. Okay. Based on the title, not necessarily based on any achievement. That's fine. That's fine. I do love Kamala Harris saying that, we need the American people deserve better, and they deserve a person who isn't going to respond with such rude outrage when challenged. Let's play that clip, if we could, of Kamala Harris responding to being challenged by a journalist, any journalist. Yeah, we don't have that. She won't even sit in the room so that we can see her respond. No, everything is scripted. Everything's teleprompted, and she's never challenged by anyone. She's Kamala Harris, don't you know? She's inherited the nomination. So why? Why do they continue to do this, and why are they so panicked about what he said in that room to Black journalists and broadcast specifically for Black audiences? Well, maybe this will tell you why. NBC asking a Black voter about Kamala Harris.
And tell me what appeals to you about Trump.
His business acumen. When Donald Trump was president, we were all doing a lot better financially. He's always been a business icon. So why wouldn't we want that business icon to be president?
And he had this to say about Harris.
I think she hasn't done anything worth mentioning.
What would you have wanted to see Vice President Harris accomplish that she has not?
I would have liked her to kind of bring a calm to the border. The border crisis has gotten out of hand.
Yeah, see, he knows better. He knows that Kamala Harris is, in fact, the border czar, that she is partly responsible by being the part of the Biden administration that focused on immigration and border that is responsible for the disaster that's down there. And he likes Donald Trump and his business acumen. See, this is a reasonable voter who happens to be Black, who is now thinking a second time and breaking out of the mold that he's been forced into by the very liberals you're seeing outraged that Donald Trump was even invited to speak to Black professional journalists and will resonate with Black audiences. You see, Black men right now, the polls show, are leaving the Democrat plantation. Tyrese on Fox yesterday actually made it quite clear. Tyrese right here.
The event apparently resigned or stepped down. Not a modicum of respect, he says, but how do you think he did?
Phenomenal. You know what? It's amazing. You can break it down to this. Since they like to group, since it's Black voters and white voters and Black this and Black that and white this and white that. But when they had an event, he showed up. The Democrats didn't. So that should mean something. And they made him wait. They made him late. Did he leave? He would have been within his reason to be like, listen, I'm running for president of the United States. My time's valuable. He could have left. He didn't. He showed up. He was insulted. But here's the thing. I don't judge by, she was there for what that reporter, I'm not calling her a journalist, was there for one reason, to get talking sound bites for the Democrats, trying to get him to be mean and nasty. And literally within a minute, that's all they came out with talking about. But here's the thing. He called her out on it, but the crowd, they were expecting when she said that there'd be huge cheers and boos and all this stuff. And they were listening to what he had to say. And there was a few times that people yelled out like, yeah, so their narrative does not match the American people, no matter what color the crowd is. So that's what they should really be concerned with. But he went there. He knew how it was going to be. He answered questions. He was there. He was present. He showed up. And I thought his statements, it was great. And he didn't allow them to change the narrative or get him. He was exactly who he was supposed to be. And this was a big day for him.
And, Dana, what about the fact that...
All right. Now that I think resonates and actually gives you a little bit more of a revelation about why MSNBC is freaking out so much, because they were privy to the reaction inside the room and the fact that most of the people, well, I shouldn't say most, but there was a good chunk of people in that room who were just as offended and annoyed at the approach that was taken to Donald Trump. And they respected and were happy that he came there and didn't snub them the way Kamala Harris did. In fact, one of the women on the stage, you heard Joy Reid throwing a lot of shade at her, is Harris Faulkner. She is a Black journalist. She is a woman. She works for Fox News, and therefore she's evil. Well, she relayed to her colleagues on Fox News exactly what the mood was like in that room during this incredible exchange.
What the nation has seen is this incredible buildup with journalists here reportedly upset because Donald Trump was coming. Some of them, and some of them we really hadn't heard from. So what I loved about what you couldn't see today was how much of that audience was enjoying the moment of hearing from a candidate that they might not always agree with. And that is the whole point. That is the growth of journalism, to be able to listen and question those things that you may not know about because you don't often talk to that person or those people. That was the goal here. So for all of that pushback, young journalists that I'm talking to after the event are saying, well, we're glad he's here.
And that's exactly what Joy Reid doesn't want to hear. That's exactly what Al Sharpton doesn't want to hear. It's exactly what everyone up and down the line at MSNBC is scared of. That's why they're freaking out so much. And it's fantastic. It's delicious. It's delightful. It's lovely. That said, I do want to throw up one bit of a cautionary flag. Maybe. Hear me out. First of all, I'm with you. I love to see him be genuine, be himself, and recognize that these people are not there to be his friend. They have let him know that they are hostile and they should be treated in kind. I'm with you on that. I love seeing Trump be Trump. It's great. It's refreshing still, even after all of these years, right? That's a good thing. And for us, for those of us who are already inclined to support President Trump, well, this is just sort of red meat for us. We love it. That's fantastic. And don't get me wrong. People who have judged so-called missteps from Donald Trump with the media in moments exactly like this over the course of the last 9 years of his public political life, they're constantly always wrong. I just played you the clip of him at the debate with Megyn Kelly. Do you remember when he sort of like went after Megyn Kelly and said, I can't believe she asked this question. I can't believe you remember all that. And that's it. That's it. He's going after a Fox News primetime host. He can't attack Megyn Kelly like that. He's done. It's over. It wasn't over. How many times in the 2015 campaign, 2016 campaign, is this the Donald Trump that you saw? And how many times was his political obituary written? You can't act this way. You can't say these things. You can't do stuff like that. It's going to kill you politically. He's dead. It's over. Hillary's going to win. And we know what happened. So anybody who's saying that Donald Trump just ruined his chances in November because of this is, well, I mean, what the hell are you thinking, guys? Have you not been paying attention? I'm not going to be one of those guys, all right? In fact, there's something refreshing to see a little bit of that 2016 energy in this election. Here's my concern. And it's not about black voters, and it's not about the media, and it's not about the elites in Washington, D.C., and it's not about Trump supporters. It's about the fact that this isn't 2016, that this is 2024. And there is still a voting bloc who maybe voted for Trump in 2016, didn't vote for Trump in 2020, and he needs to get them back. I don't worry about black voters in this regard. I don't worry about reporters. Here's who I'm worried about. I'm worried about the woman, the suburban mom, who opens up her Facebook page today and sees one of her Chardonnay drinking friends post a clip from this event with the comment, I don't know how anyone can vote for this racist. I'm worried about the mom who is not paying attention to the news as much as you might be, who isn't necessarily on board with Trump, but knows we got to have some kind of change in this country, who maybe saw the convention and saw the last few weeks and said, oh, well, maybe Trump is done with all the mean tweets and everything, and I'm ready to vote for him again. And then she goes to Instagram, and she's one of her favorite influencers, or maybe even somebody from her church, post a clip of Donald Trump and say, here we go again. See, that's what I'm worried about. Is it enough to hurt him? Might be. I don't know. There are certain states where that can make a difference. I'm glad he went. I'm glad he pushed back. I'm glad he fought. But there's one third rail there that I am concerned about. And that is, if this election in November is about policy, it's about inflation and the economy and jobs and the border and security and national security and foreign wars and imports and tariffs and about crime in the streets, Donald Trump wins. He wins in a landslide. If this election in November is about polarizing racial politics and identity politics, well, that's playing right into Kamala Harris's playbook. Kamala Harris wants this election to be about race. She wants it to be about those things. That's what her entire campaign is about, identity politics so far. And I fear that much of what Donald Trump said and did yesterday gives her more ammunition to work with. That's all. And you don't come here for a cheerleader. You come here for brute, frank analysis. And that's my only concern about yesterday. That said, we'll finish up with Tom Cotton, who bravely went on CNN and told it like it was. He's absolutely right. Sadly, though, it was on CNN, so who knows if anybody saw it.
First off, it's refreshing to see a presidential candidate who's willing to go in front of the media, something that Donald Trump knew would be a tough interview. It turned out to be a hostile adversarial interview, but he's been doing that for 9 years. Kamala Harris, meanwhile, has been hiding out for the 10 days that she's been a presidential nominee. Before then, she used to do interviews every 5 days or so, but now she hasn't faced any media at all. I guess she thinks she can hide out for 100 days until this election. More fundamentally, the issue isn't what race Kamala Harris identifies as. It's the fact that she identifies as a San Francisco liberal. She has a long record, not just as vice president, of being Joe Biden's border czar, standing by the disastrous Afghanistan withdrawal, but running for president herself. She said she was going to take away your health insurance on the job, while she was going to give health insurance to illegal aliens, and that we'd have a lot more of them because she promised that she would decriminalize illegal immigration. She cast the deciding votes as vice president in the Senate for the trillions of dollars of spending that has unleashed inflation on families that make it harder for them to make ends meet. Kamala Harris is a dangerous San Francisco liberal, and that's what really matters to Americans.
Yeah, that's good, and that's smart, and that's right. And you're asked a question about race from Caitlin Collins, of course, and you pivot and say, yeah, no, what the real problem here is that our country is a disaster and Kamala Harris is at fault, and she's got terrible ideas. That was well done. A little bit more from Cotton.
My point is, when are you and the rest of the media going to demand that Kamala Harris come out and answer questions in an unscripted format about where she stands for this country, as opposed to continuing to focus on what Donald Trump said today? 4 years ago, Joe Biden said, if you don't vote for him, you ain't black. Could you imagine a more insulting comment? Joe Biden is presuming to judge the political views of 1/8 of our fellow citizens based on their skin color. Did you ever ask Kamala Harris to condemn his remarks?
There are
Did you ever ask him or ask her if that was racist?
This is a question. You're a Republican senator, so I want to ask you about the Republican.
Did you ask Kamala Harris? Caitlin, did you ask Kamala Harris why she's willing to serve as vice president for a man she essentially called racist and a segregationist?
Nope. And the answer is, of course, they never asked those questions because, well, they had an election to win. Listen, this was an extraordinary day yesterday, and I'm glad we were able to show you the left-wing liberal media's heads exploding over it. How this plays out in November, we'll have to see. I've given you my opinion about what I do think the one danger zone is. But ultimately, I think when all is said and done, Trump's gonna be Trump. And take it for what the good parts of that and sometimes the challenging parts of it. Either way, Trump is going to be Trump. And in the long run, that's a good thing. All right. In these crazy times, there is peace of mind in security, right? Security for our country, security for our leaders, and security for our families. But think about this. You're not financially secure if all your eggs are in one basket. You know that, right? Gold and silver are an excellent way to diversify your savings. They're a hedge against inflation. They're a physical asset that's in high demand globally, from the wealthy to central banks. Everybody wants gold and silver. And through my friends at Birch Gold Group, you can own physical gold and silver in a tax-sheltered retirement account. Yeah, you can diversify an old IRA or 401k for no money out of pocket into an IRA in gold and silver. Now, this is one thing you can do to secure your family savings. What you want to do is text Larry, my name, Larry, to 989898, and you'll receive a free, no obligation info kit and learn the role precious metals play in your overall savings strategy. Again, text Larry to 989898. They've got an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and thousands of happy customers. You can trust Birch Gold like I do. Text Larry to 989898 right now. Donald Trump left that meeting with the National Association of Black Journalists and headed straight to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania for a rally. The first time he's been in that state since the harrowing assassination attempt that came a fraction of an inch from taking his life. And what a scene it was, an emotional one, a heartwarming one. And oh, by the way, he came ready to fight Kamala Harris. Let's watch.
As you know, this is my first return to Pennsylvania since our rally in Butler. We're going back to Butler, too, by the way. People said to me, "Are you serious?" I said, "I'm serious. We're going back." It's a great place. 18 days ago, where we had a very terrible day. We had a rough day, I will tell you, by all accounts. I should not be with you today. I shouldn't be with you. But I am. I want to thank all of the people of Pennsylvania for their extraordinary love and support. It is incredible. We're going to win this thing so big. We're going to win it big, including everyone at Butler Memorial Hospital. They were fantastic. Wow.
Yeah, he announced he is definitely going back to Butler. He had said this on a post on Truth Social, but this is the first time he said it out loud at a rally. And what a moment, what a cheer that was. And can you imagine how dramatic it's going to be standing in that very same spot? I can't wait for that rally. And he talked about all the precautions that they're saying right now, that he shouldn't do any more outdoor rallies. This one was inside an arena in Harrisburg. But he's being cautioned by the Secret Service that he should do no more outdoor rallies. Fascinating, isn't it? That's election interference is what it is. You can't tell me that Barack Obama in 2008 didn't have the same level of security threat when he did outdoor rallies. And I remember him doing them in amphitheaters, in football stadiums, in huge parks. Remember, I think it was in Chicago where they had a huge outdoor concert. They always have a concert, by the way. People show up to see Green Day, right? And then he speaks afterwards. But I remember them doing that then, and they were able to secure the place. Why are they now telling Donald Trump that he can't do outdoor rallies? I'll tell you why. Because Kamala Harris can't draw the same kind of numbers that he's drawing. And they don't want that political comparison. Once again, I know it's shocking. Secret Service acting politically. I mean, it's not like we've seen anything like that in the last few days. He talked specifically about these outdoor rallies because they're very important to him and his campaign strategy and to we, the people, the voters.
This is a hell of a big arena. How many seats? This looks like Madison Square Garden. This is a big, beautiful place. Wow. I didn't care. Although they'd prefer that we be in an arena. I don't know why. But we're not giving up the outdoor rallies. You know, all those people that we had to turn away today at an outdoor rally, we had 107,000 people show up in New Jersey. 107,000.
That's right. See, if he does an outdoor rally, everybody can be accommodated, and it's a huge, unbelievable visual like we saw in New Jersey at that rally. If it's indoor, then you're limited, right? And you have to turn people away. But the crowd size is going to be limited to the arena itself. And that's another reason why they're doing this. So he says, we're not giving up the outdoor rallies. They're going to go back to doing them. And that's good news. And then something happened. As he's doing his thing and he's talking to the crowd, he spots somebody in the crowd who he recognized from Butler, Pennsylvania, 18 days before. And watch this moment.
I think it was really known that when bullets are fired in a stadium, everyone really gets moving fast. They call it a stampede. Nobody moved. You looked at the people behind me, right? Everyone's seen those people. Those people have become legendary. That was just a small group. The main tens of thousands of people around here, you couldn't even see the end. Nobody ran. Nobody moved. They knew I was in trouble. They said, he's in trouble. If you went to a soccer stadium where you'll have a bullet go off, one bullet, the whole place runs for the exits. Nobody ran. And how about the man behind me with the black outfit and the green floppy hat? He's like this. David, did you see him? He's looking, right? Where? Get up here. Is that him? Yeah, that's... Wow. That's great, huh? Well, you're good. You can be in a foxhole with me anytime, man.
See, that's an amazing moment. And I just want to say, playing into the larger theme that we're seeing this week, it's something that you can't see Kamala Harris do. Everything that Kamala Harris does is so scripted and so phony and so fake. It's Hollywood. She's playing a character. Everything that she has done has been direct on. Even the lines like, oh, we're going to do it again in 2024, or you meet me face to face, Donald, and all of it is scripted. Watch her. She's just better at reading a teleprompter than Joe Biden is, which isn't saying much. But real, natural human moments like that, you don't see her doing. And it's another reason why they don't want the side-by-side comparisons of the arenas events. By the way, real fast, I just want to point this out as we go forward because I can't take my eyes off them. Look at the Amish family there. I love that you got or maybe they're Mennonite. See, with the yellow shirt and the suspenders, and then the kid, and then the other guy with the hat. I mean, is there anything more central Pennsylvania than that? I love that the Amish or the Mennonites are coming out for Trump. Yeah, that's right. They vote too. All right. And then along the same lines, he couldn't get the guy up on stage, but it was very cool. He said, yeah, you can be in a foxhole with me anytime. But he did bring a woman up on stage. And I want you to see this moment because she also had a hand in what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania. And as you'll see from Donald Trump, he thinks in a way this woman saved his life.
Nobody's to look at the car. Nobody knows who's there, who's in it. But you can see it on a certain chart that I have. This chart saved my life. Where is that chart? I love that chart. I'm going to sleep with that chart for the rest of my life, that chart. That chart. The amazing thing, the people that operate the computers and all the brilliant equipment we have backstage, she said to me, she's great, she's great. She should come out. Just tell her to come out here for a second. Quick, 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 quick. You got to get her out. She's never done this before. She saved my life, in a sense. I said, you saved my life. Here she is. Wow. Whoa.
Hi.
No, she's a computer genius. She saved my life. No. So, the story is over, but that chart, I only used it probably less than 20% of the time. So in other words, we do the rallies and stuff. Sometimes I'll pull it down, sometimes I won't, because I do things a little bit at random while.
It's just a wholesome moment and really genuine to bring out the woman. Her job is to work out these computer graphics and put them up whenever he calls for them and shift on the fly and stuff. And I like real human beings in this world of pretend make-believe media and politics. When you have somebody wholesome and genuine part of this story in such an enormous way, think about that woman for the rest of her life. It's just overwhelming sometimes when you think about it. She'll be able to tell everyone that she ever encounters and her children that she was in charge of pushing a button that put a graphic up on the screen that saved Donald Trump because he turned to look at it. It's kind of awesome to think about, isn't it? All right. Then we got to the meat of the rally. Now, you remember earlier this week in Atlanta when Kamala Harris challenged Donald Trump specifically on immigration, right? You remember this?
I will proudly put my record against his any day of the week.
Remember that? Yeah. Again, it's all so rehearsed. It's so staged. It's so practiced in front of a mirror in your bathroom before you go out there. Any day of the right. I did that. We were making fun of her with this thing because it was so obviously rehearsed and forced. Trump picked up on that too. Watch this.
I will put it against Donald Trump.
So he kind of made fun of her, but I want to show you the longer clip that goes well beyond just mocking her hand gesture there. Watch this, and you tell me if you think Donald Trump is in any way scared of facing off with Kamala Harris on immigration.
In one of the most astoundingly phony moments in her speech last night, Kamala Harris bragged that, quote, I will proudly put my record against Donald Trump's any day of the week. I will put it against Donald Trump. This got one of the worst records in anywhere. Well, Kamala, let's go. Challenge accepted. Are you ready? Let's compare our record point by point.
Look at that reaction, right? They're ready. We're all ready for that face-off. And he didn't stop there. He described Kamala Harris's record so far in the only way that it can be described.
She's the worst ever. And she's going to be your president. She will destroy our country. This November, the American people are going to compare these records, and they're going to tell Baltazar Harris, you have done a horrible job. You're a disgrace to our country. You're fired. Get out of here. You're fired. Get out.
We love the you're fired thing coming back again with this 2016 energy, right? He's not the former president running. No, he's the apprentice dude running. I think they're trying to recapture sort of that momentum they had in 2016 as the upstart challenger. You thought you had a stark choice between 81-year-old, barely feeble, incapable Joe Biden and Donald Trump. But honestly, now that they've switched him out with Kamala Harris, frankly, the comparison is even more stark. And he explained that yesterday.
The contrast could not be more stark. On the one hand, you have a radical left puppet candidate who is fake, fake, fake. And on the other hand, you have a president who will fight, fight, fight for America.
Fight, 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 becoming the rallying cry of this presidential campaign for Donald Trump. But the fake Kamala Harris narrative is definitely hitting home and it's resonating. That's why you're seeing so much about it. That's why he raised the issue of her switching her ethnicity depending on the audience that's in front of her, even her voice and her accent. And he continued along those lines.
Because everything about Kamala Harris rollout, it's phony and it's fake. Did you see when President Obama and Michelle called? Did you see? Hello? Hello? Yes. Yes. Who is this? Oh, this is Michelle and Barack. Oh. So surprised to hear. They got 4 cameras in front. Oh, I'm so surprised it's on speakerphone. Listen, we just want to congratulate you on destroying Joe Biden. I mean, on winning the... Hey, is Joe Biden gonna... Was that the phoniest phone call you've ever seen? How do you think, Dan? What do you think? Dan Muser, great congressman. What do you think? Was that a phony phone call? You wouldn't do it. You wouldn't get away. In your district, you wouldn't get away with it, would you?
Kamala is phony. Kamala is fake. This entire campaign is a Hollywood script. It's good that they're picking up on this and using it more and more and more. He was relentless with it, in fact.
In her speech in Atlanta last night, Kamala Harris even tried to outbrand a new Southern accent. Did you hear a new accent? If I ever did that, all of those people back there, look at them, look at all those cameras. Oh, when I go through hell, I'd have a week of hell if I ever tried to do that.
That's true. The fake Southern accent. Why is it Hillary and Obama and Kamala can get away with it? You should try that if you're not a Democrat. A little bit more.
The evidence showed that all these stories were fake, including me wanting to grab a big, strong Secret Service agent around the neck. Think of this. Think of this. I'm in a car. I say, fellas, I'd love to go down to the Capitol. Sir, we don't think it's good because, you're very exposed there. It's all that's okay. I said, you don't think we can? No. So I said, all right, where do you want to go? They'll go back to the White House. That's the experience. This one person had me getting extremely upset. I don't get upset. When somebody smart says, sir, you're probably better. And nothing was happening. Just people were walking down. Remember, patriotically, right? Right? Right. So they had me coming from the back of the car. Now, these guys are very strong. They're young and strong. Not as strong as me, but they're strong. And I grabbed the one guy driving, and he's got arms like this. I grabbed him, and I was rebuffed. And then I went over to the right, and I think he's like a world champion karate guy, right? Like a very tough cookie. Bobby. His name's Bobby. That's all I know, but I know him well. He's a good guy. And I grabbed him around the neck. And I began to twist and turn. And he was in tremendous pain because of the power of Trump. Tremendous pain. And then I went back to the White House and I started throwing hamburgers at the wall. This is the story of this person. So they went to the Secret Service. They found out it was all bullshit. Everything.
Yeah. It's important. I just, by the way, let me just assure you 100%. I'm going to go out on a limb here. None of that was on the teleprompter. But this, again, Trump was in the mood yesterday to just be Trump and to be real and be genuine. That, of course, is a story that was told in the January 6th committee hearing. The way when he retells the story, to say, okay, so this is what we're supposed to believe, that this is what I did on January 6th. This is what they're prosecuting me for, apparently. And as you see how absurd it is and how ridiculous it is and how unbelievable it is and how obviously phony it is, it's important to recognize Liz Cheney believed all that. Adam Kinzinger believed all that. Every anchor on every cable station out there believed all that. Jake Tapper believed all that. Jake Tapper had Cassidy Hutchinson, the person who came up with that story, on his show. And he furrowed his brow like Jake Tapper does. And you know he believed it. It was very important and sincere and earnest. They all believed that story. And it takes Donald Trump to actually point out the absurdity of all of it to make them look like the fools that they are. Great rally yesterday. Can't wait for the one coming up in Butler. Now, as you know, the Olympics are going on right now, and there's a lot of stuff that goes on, in the morning hours or in the middle of the day in Paris that we just wake up to, right? And we see, and that's what happened today. Around 8 o'clock this morning Eastern time, we started seeing an extraordinary sight at the women's boxing match where a man from Algeria who was fighting as a woman started a boxing match against a boxer from Italy, a woman. And 45 seconds into it, the woman, the Italian boxer, stopped the fight and said, "No, I'm not going forward with this anymore." You see, this man who was allowed to box as a woman was punching this young woman in the face really hard. And he's a man. And she said she's never been hit that hard before. And so she stopped the whole thing. Now, this man and from Algeria, and then there's another man fighting as well, are allowed to fight because the Olympic boxing committee that regulates these things has said, as long as your country issues a passport that says you're a woman, that's all that matters to me. These boxers have already failed testing to prove that they are, in fact, biological men. That doesn't matter. The Olympics have allowed this to happen. Now, I would love to show you the video clip that I just described to you. I want you to see how atrocious, how horrific this was. But I can't. I can't show you that video. Amazing, isn't it? Why can't I show you that? Well, it's because NBC Sports doesn't want you to see it. NBC Sports, as you'll see here, is claiming copyright infringement on all uses of that clip. Now, make no mistake, earlier today, I've seen clips shared all over social media of Katie Ledecky winning her gold yesterday in the 1500 freestyle. It's an amazing moment. I've seen clips of people on the great clip of people on the podium of the women's gymnastics team. I mean, a lot of moments from the Olympics have been allowed to be shared without NBC Sports claiming any copyright infringement. But this clip, they've said, no, you can't share that. We own that. It's a copyright infringement. Mario Nafal reporting on this. The Olympics and NBC are taking down videos of the controversial Olympics opening ceremony, citing copyright infringement instead of addressing the criticism. The action has sparked outrage, as many believe these takedowns are a misuse of copyright laws to suppress negative commentary. Under the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, fair use allows for commentary and critique, which raises concerns about the legitimacy of these takedowns. The actions of NBC and the Olympics are not only silencing free speech, but also acting in an authoritarian manner by preventing public discourse on the event. And here's some of the screenshots you'll see, the notifications that people are getting if they share this clip. There you go. Got a case number, got a whole thing. Anybody who works in social media and does what we do, our streaming that we do on the platforms that we're on right now, we see that sometimes. But fair use is fair use, and I'm not a copyright lawyer or anything, but generally speaking, if something happens that's newsworthy, you're allowed to show that image or show that video if, in fact, you're doing what I'm doing right now, which is providing analysis and commentary and extra content associated with it. So you're not trying to make money by just showing people the video. You're actually providing your own original content to accompany that newsworthy event. It's pretty basic fair use standards. But NBC Sports and the Olympics have drawn the line on this moment. This moment in particular. Shocking, isn't it? Evan Kilgore also commenting on it. The Olympics and NBC are using DMCA copyright violations to remove videos of the demonic opening ceremony. That's right. The last thing they flexed their copyright muscle on was the Last Supper moment. They said the world was waking up, saying, make this go viral. And we did quite a bit. I mean, they couldn't stop that, is the point. They wanted to stop everyone from seeing the Last Supper and the opening ceremony and getting outraged. And they did put as many copyright infringements as they could, but people worked around it. And hopefully by the time the day is over, we'll be able to work around the copyright infringement of the boxing match. But think about this for a minute. This is not NBC Sports protecting their investment. This is not NBC Sports wanting to make you go to Peacock or wherever they're broadcasting the Olympics right now. That's not what this is about. This is obvious what it's about. NBC Sports has a political interest in you not getting upset about something that is really upsetting. This could be the end of women's sports if people don't step up right now. We've been talking about this for years here in the United States of America, where young men are identifying as women and they're competing, whether it's in volleyball, where a young woman in North Carolina got a ball spiked in her face from a biological male, and she suffered a concussion and brain damage that she still has to this day, a 17-year-old girl, because of that man allowed to compete against women. We've been talking about, of course, Riley Gaines and Leah Thomas and the swimming competition and NCAA swimming finals. If this doesn't stop, women's sports will end completely. And now it's boxing. And the apologists, the champions for this kind of behavior, have consistently said the same thing over and over again. Well, that doesn't happen. That's so rare. You're making a big deal over something that doesn't happen. It didn't happen in the track meet in Connecticut. It didn't happen in the basketball game in Massachusetts. It didn't happen in the swim finals with Riley Gaines and Leah Thomas. It didn't happen in the volleyball match in North Carolina. And it certainly didn't happen in Paris this morning in the women's boxing match. Or at least they don't want you to think that it happens. But it happens over and over and over again. And it continues to happen more and more and more. Bicycle competitions, biological men are winning in women's events. Skateboarding. Taylor Silverman, who works at the Tim Pool show, is a professional skateboarder. And she's had to drop out of events because they're letting men compete against girls. It happens over and over and over and over again. But this moment now that happened in Paris, this could be the turning point. I just said that this could end women's sports forever, but it could also save women's sports. It can save women's sports if we focus on the heroes involved in this story, not the villain, not this boxer who is so clearly a man if you look at the picture of him. No. The heroes like Angela Carini. Angela Carini is the Italian boxer that we're talking about. And we believe this clip is free of copyright infringement. We certainly hope so. Because you should see her talk about why she fights, why she has trained all of her life to get to this pinnacle of her sport so that she could represent her country at the Olympics, the spirit of competition. Read these subtitles as she tells you in her native language exactly why she does what she does.
Non so se si sente. Lui è mio padre. Io ho fatto l'ultimo chilometro perché un giorno mi sentii stanca. Prima di Tokyo mi sentivo stanca. Dissi, babbo, sono stanca, gli allenamenti sono intensi, però io non mollo. Lui mi disse, Angelina, babbo, un campione è un po' come quando combatti, è un po' come il ciclismo. Il campione quando vede l'ultimo chilometro lo sai che cosa fa? Pedala ancora di più. Allora tu arriva a quell'ultimo chilometro e pedala, vai fino in fondo perché io sarò sempre con te. E così ho fatto. Fino alla fine ho combattuto con sangue negli occhi perché volevo a tutti i costi questa vittoria, solo per mio.
You know, there's a reason why sports resonates with people all around the world. It's why the Olympics are so popular, why the World Cup is popular, why all sports are popular. Some international sports like the Olympics, but also the sports that we love every day. It's because of the human stories, because it affects the human condition, that we can all relate to the passion, to the emotion of it. And that emotion, that passion, that love, that drive, that dedication to her father, it ended today with her on her knees weeping in the middle of that boxing ring because she got punched in the face 3 times in 45 seconds by a man, and she was forced to fight against a man. And she said, enough of this charade, enough of this theatrical escapade, enough of the lie that this is women's sports, because it's not. And everyone knows it. But we're forced and compelled to play along with it. And NBC Sports has such a political interest in their political correct narrative about transgender agendas that they won't even let us look at the boxing match itself. If they're so proud of this, if they think that there's nothing wrong with this, if they really believe that this dude from Algeria is in fact a legitimate woman worthy of being able to fight against other women, then why don't they want the whole world to see it? Why are they blocking us from talking about it and sharing it and showing it to you? They should be putting it out there saying, yeah, that's right. This is what we got. Get used to it. This is what women's sports is now. And yet they don't want you to see it. They're censoring it. They're in the business of censoring things to push their agenda. Well, I said we have to celebrate the heroes. And yes, Angela is a hero. There's another hero. Frankly, I think even more heroic. Irish boxer Kelly Harrington this morning. Kelly Harrington is the gold medalist. You see it right there. That gold medal is from the last Olympics in Tokyo. She won her division. She is the reigning gold medal champion in her weight class in women's boxing. And she announced today that she will not step into the ring with a biological male. This is what needs to happen. It's not easy. Think about the effort that she's gone through her entire life to reach the pinnacle. She is literally the champion. She's the best, and she's willing to give that up, hand it over to somebody else who she could probably defeat, instead of bastardizing the integrity of the sport that she loves by living out a lie, by putting herself in a position to say, oh yeah, absolutely, you're a woman just like me, because it's a lie. What a hero. What a hero, Kelly Harrington. Hopefully this will start a trend. Hopefully this is where things change. Yes, what we saw that we're not allowed to show you in Paris today in that boxing match, that could be the end of women's sports as we know it if this is accepted. But this is also a turning point where this could save women's sports. If these brave women are championed, rallied around, lifted up as the heroes that they are. The real champions here are the ones who refuse to play along and who refuse to fight. Sometimes stepping away from the fight, stepping away from the competition, choosing not to compete is the most heroic move of all, the real move of a champion. Who better to check in on a champion than Martina Navratilova, a left-wing liberal gay activist and champion in her own right multiple times in women's tennis. She, echoing J.K. Rowling on social media today, first J.K. Rowling says, watch this thread. Of course, I can't show you the thread she wants us to watch because it's been taken down. The video has. Explain why you're okay with a man beating a woman in public for your entertainment. It's not sport. From the bullying cheat in red all the way up to the organizers who allowed this to happen, this is men reveling in their power over women. I agree. These are two women of the left. I agree with them. But everybody talks about unity. Why can't we get along? Why can't we agree on things? We agree on this. Let's hold hands and sing Kumbaya, my liberal friend J.K. Rowling and my liberal friend Martina Navratilova, because this is one thing we got together. Martina replies and says exactly right. This is on the IOC, that's the International Olympic Committee, and those in power who make the rules. It's a travesty and makes a mockery of all Olympic sports. And meanwhile, what do we get from the media covering this? Well, hopefully this is an outlier, but let me give you a quick example. From BBC, the boxer in question is Ayman Khalef. There's the picture of him after he won today. And the headline, Ayman Khalef progresses after opponent abandons the match. That's how the BBC is reporting on what happened today. Everything that I just described to you, to them, the big takeaway, this guy advances after his opponent abandoned the match. Oh, although I'm sure they got all their pronouns correct. And of course, when I say the pronouns correct, I mean wrong. You see, to use the right pronouns in a case like this, you'd be called a bigot. The only way you can correctly use pronouns when describing this story is if you actually are factually inaccurate and grammatically incorrect. Then you're okay. That's the world we're living in. And that's the world that needs to change right now. And to bring it back home here to domestic politics, understand something. Everything I just described to you that I'm not allowed to show you because NBC Sports has a political agenda. But everything that happened today and that political agenda NBC Sports has, it's embraced by, promoted by, celebrated by, and in some cases, it's been litigated by Kamala Harris, a liberal San Francisco, California Democrat who is fully in favor of the policies and agenda that led to that poor Italian woman getting punched in the face by a man earlier today in Paris. Make no mistake, this election is about very important big issues. And that may be the biggest of them all. Thanks for watching today. We'll be back next time, same place. In the meantime, my name's Larry O'Connor. You can call me Larry.